Welcome to the Booker Prize Awards here in East London. It's one of the biggest nights in literature, not just here in the UK, but across the world. It is the prize that authors who write in the English language want to win. It's a £50,000 prize, and the result means as well that their books fly off the shelves. It's an incredibly prestigious award. And if you look down there now, some of the nominees are having their dinner, celebrity guests as well, the judges. The chief judge is Roddy Doyle, the Irish author who won the prize in 1993, and also Sarah Jessica Parker, the Hollywood actress. She's adding a bit of sparkle to the judging panel. She's one of the judges as well. So the winner is going to be announced on that stage, and in a few moments we're going to hear from Sarah Jessica Parker as well, and another judge, and they're going to take us through the award and everything that's going on tonight. So in a few seconds we will cross over to Sarah Jessica Parker and Kylie Field that are going to be talking through the nominations as well. But it's a really special night here in East London. We've got some really great books as well. Audition, that's one of them. Let me lift it up to the camera if you can see. The Rest of Our Lives as well, that's another one. Susan Choi, quite a weighty tome as well. We've got Flesh, which is an exploration of masculinity. That's a very popular one. Also The Land in Winter, that's already won a historical fiction award. It was set in the 1960s, so it doesn't seem that long ago, but it's apparently eligible for a historical fiction award. And also The Loneliness of Sonia and Sonny, very popular. Kiran Desai, she actually won the Booker Prize in 2006, so she could win it again tonight, and we'll find out very soon, in just under half an hour's time, who has won this book award. Now, I think we're going to cross pretty soon over to the stage and hear from Sarah Jessica Parker and Kylie Reid, who are two of the judges. And do you want to hear from them now? Because I think everyone wants to hear a bit of Sarah Jessica Parker, don't they? So let's cross over to the stage and listen to them now.
But it's the place I most want to be, and in the hands of these extraordinary writers, it's been ever more so the case.
Fantastic. Kylie Reid, you were longlisted yourself for the Booker Prize in 2020 for your first novel, Such a Fun Age. I wonder what you've learned from being a judge this time.
On the other side, there's so much of what we're all bringing to the books that we've read before, and where we're at in our lives. And you know, for myself, I just became a parent, and a lot of these books are about parenthood. It's kind of nice to remember that the reader is a part of the journey with your novel, and it's been, the privilege of a lifetime.
And I was wondering, Sarah Jessica, you know, when you're filming, do you do a lot of reading in your trailer? When do you do your reading?
Every time they say cut. I genuinely, strategically always find a place that it either fits under a corset, a petticoat, a skirt, and at action I can pull it out, sometimes suspended 60 feet in the air. You can take a book apart, which I'm loath to do, but if that means that I have a book when they call cut, I will do it and put it back together later.
Oh, like carry chunks of it?
I carry pieces of it, yeah.
Okay. Kylie, you've said that you like to make books compete against one another. I wonder how you did that. That was presumably how you approached judging.
Yes, I think that reading 2 books in 2 days is less daunting than 1 a day, which is kind of the ask. So I would read 1 hour of one book and 1 hour of another book and make them fight a little bit. And that worked out for me, yeah.
Excellent. Can I ask, I know it's tough to be asked it, but tell us a bit about the judging process, maybe Sarah Jessica first, because often one gets a sense that it's a very tough decision and that it can be tensions and stresses backstage.
I think it's certainly challenging to have books that you feel such admiration for, affection about. I think that's been the hardest part initially, was getting those 150 plus books to 13. But part of this process now is celebrating all of the books. I would say I don't know, I'm in such good company, and we've found a way to get to tonight. And it's been hard in a lot of ways, but it's been such an honor. And frankly, there's kind of this nobility to the task that has felt really, I don't know, we felt such pride about it. I'm a little feel like I'm a contestant on a show and there may be a wrong answer. It's very scary up here. I just want to say. How do you feel, Kylie?
I agree. We all quite get along, and I've never been in a book club before, and this has been the most wonderful experience in that way. And I didn't anticipate when we all get together, I'm so nervous and giddy to see how they felt about the books, and it kind of takes you back to understanding why you dedicated your life to literature in the first place.
Fantastic. Kylie Reid, Sarah Jessica Parker, thank you both for being judges. Thank you for sharing some of your experience with us. Thank you. So they can both relax. Their work here is done. It's time now to hear...
Well, that was Sarah Jessica Parker and Kylie Reid, two of the Booker Prize judges. And someone who knows a fair bit about being a Booker Prize judge is the author, Sarah Collins. Sarah, you were a judge last year. How was that?
It was, and I mean this sincerely, one of the highlights of my personal and professional life. I joked at the end of my year with the wonderful people at the Booker Prize Foundation that I really wished I could judge every year for the rest of my life. It was, I'm a reader. I have always loved books since I was tiny, and it was just like getting to read the best books in the world with the best readers in the world, and then having the privilege of changing someone's life ultimately at the end of the year by awarding them the prize.
Yeah, because what was that moment like when you're down there and you're on the judging panel and then they announce the winner and you've played such a big part in that?
Even seeing Samantha this year, she's come back to talk about how her year was and to hand the prize over, seeing how the impact it's had on her, hearing her talk about how transformative it's been. I will, and knowing that that book will sit on the shelf of Booker winners now, it will become a classic, and that I had a small part to play in that, is truly something I will always treasure.
And I want to talk to you about your writing career, because you weren't always an author, you were a lawyer beforehand, and a lot of people dream of being an author, dream of being a writer, but don't quite know how to start. So how did you do it?
And I didn't even really dream of it. I mean, it seemed to be beyond the possibility of dreaming for me. I grew up on a tiny island in the Cayman Islands. You know, we were lucky to get books, and I was a voracious reader, but you know, we were sort of cut off from the world of books. And so, and for me, authors were like gods. They were like superstars, and it felt like something very remote and unattainable. So it was only in my mid-40s, after I'd been a lawyer for many years, that I decided I was going to give it a go, and I really was just going to give it a go. I did a creative writing master's, and I had no idea what the path towards a career as an author would be. I got lucky, and I had great support along the way. But one of the things I wish would change is that young people would have more support and more information and more access to careers in the arts generally.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because a lot of the careers in the arts, especially at the start, they're not well paid.
Exactly.
So it kind of limits people, doesn't it, from backgrounds that aren't wealthy.
Exactly.
Because you think, well, I can't live at home, or you know, I can't work for free.
Yeah, I
How
can't do
I
an unpaid
it?
internship. Exactly. There's a real access problem, and I think actually that people who have succeeded have a responsibility to mentor, to support, to encourage, but also to petition the industry to change. And until it does, we're going to be shutting the doors, I fear, to lots of young people who deserve a shot.
What would you like to see then? More kind of scholarships, more funding to allow people to write and be
Grants,
paid to write.
exactly. Do you know, especially I think the structure in Ireland, but places where the government takes the arts seriously and invests in grants are places where, you know, literary and other artistic communities thrive, and that's the example I think we should follow.
Yeah, because in Ireland it's that basic income, isn't there, for artists, so they can do their art and survive.
How do we expect people to do things for free?
Exactly.
So I feel like we're losing people like, you know, the Samantha Harveys and whoever will win the Booker tonight. We'll be losing future Booker winners unless we invest.
That's such a shame. It's a real shame. And I know your book, Confessions of Franny Langton, lots of people will have read that. It won an award itself. And it's, you know, scripts have been written. That must have been such an amazing moment when that book was finally published.
Yeah, in fact, I wrote the scripts, but I joke all the time that I wrote the scripts, but I didn't recognize the finished product. It's so different from the novel. And of course, making something for film or television is a huge collaboration. So you write a novel, on your own, usually in your pajamas, let's face it.
Yeah.
But then when you're adapting that novel for film or television, you work with a team and you've got to kind of share your vision, combine your vision with loads of other visions, and hopefully come up with something that everyone can be proud of.
It must be a bit of a fear when you're author, because you're kind of working in isolation a little bit, and then you put your creation out there in the world and you're waiting for people to read it and tell you what they think about it.
Or not. They don't have to tell you what they think about it. Yeah, I mean, Kylie Reid, who's one of the judges this year, said something which stayed with me when they announced the shortlist, which is that a book is a collaboration between a writer and a reader. But that collaboration happens without the writer. We're not in the room when people are reading our books. So it's a kind of magical thing. The book goes out into the world, it makes its own way, it becomes something separate from you, and hopefully it finds the people that it's been written for, but you're not really part of that transaction anymore.
And let's talk about some of these books.
Yes, because aren't they amazing?
They're incredible. And I do think sometimes people think about the Booker Prize, oh, it's going to be really difficult books, I'm not going to be able to get into them, I'm going to need a dictionary, but I found these really accessible.
Yes, they make you laugh, they make you cry. So there's a book in this pile that I read twice, and I cried, sobbed each time I finished it.
Can you tell us
even
which
though
one that is?
Well, yeah, Flashlight.
Flashlight.
I don't
So
want to pick favorites because I
No.
think they're all great, but this book did make me cry twice. This book made me laugh almost
The rest
on
of
every
our
page.
lives. It was funny, this book, because I started off hating the main character. I thought this man is so self-absorbed, and by the end of it I was really invested in his
Yes,
life.
well, that's great writing. By the
Exactly.
way, I love this debate because do you have to like a character
No,
to like a
no.
book? I love a book where I hate the main character. Although I didn't here. I interviewed the shortlisted authors last night at the South Bank, and I described this book as the tepid cry of the straight white man. Sorry, tepid battle cry of the straight white man. But that's what makes it so funny. He's
Yeah.
a kind of hapless, middle-aged man who's just trying to get through life with the least possible damage to himself and other people. But life has other plans.
Yeah.
It's just such a funny, piercing,
Really funny.
poignant, honest book.
And this book as well, Flesh, which is kind of, it's a book about masculinity, really.
Yes.
And that's another book where I thought, I'm not really getting this first chapter. And then I became so invested in Ishvan's life, the protagonist's life.
You're told so little about this character, and he tells you so little about himself. But David Soloy is such a gifted writer that by the time you finish the book, you feel like you've experienced someone's whole life. It's a transformation that's really difficult to explain and that only a very skilled writer could pull off.
And I know you had a bit of a full circle moment last night being on stage with the authors, because Kiran Desai, who's written The Loneliness of Sonia and Sonny, which she's won the Booker Prize before, you were saying that you
Yes.
read her books when you were growing
So I think
up.
when I was, not when I was growing up, but in my early 20s, I think Hullabaloo in the Guava Orchard, which was her debut, came out in my early 20s. It was one of my sort of formative young adult reading experiences. And at the time, as I said, I had no idea that the world of literature could be accessible to me. So the fact that I'd read her books so many years ago and then ended up interviewing her on stage at the Royal Festival Hall last night was the kind of magical connection that I really do feel books can make. You know, books are very democratic. They bring all kinds of people together from all walks of life,
Totally
all
true.
backgrounds, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what colour you are, how much money you have,
No.
where you come from. And so I really felt that was a kind of example of the power of reading and of literature.
Sarah, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go and get back to the event downstairs.
Yes, because
but
I want to find out who's won. I
I
want
know,
to be there
you're
for the
awful if I
announcement.
trap you here and then you don't actually find out who's won. But thank you so much
Thank
for joining
you for
us on
having
BBC
me.
News,
Thank
and
you.
lovely to meet you. Thank you so much,
you.
Sarah. Thank you. Shall we head back to the stage now, because we are going to hear from Penelope Lively, who's a Booker Prize winner herself.
Who was a small vampire written in the 1980s, to the Jumblies, who've been sailing the seas in their sieves since 1871. Children's literature is not tethered to time. It floats free, whether written yesterday or 100 years ago. The writer of a children's book has license to abandon time and place, to create, to propose alternatives. It's an indulgence and a hazard. The writer must find a language, a universe that will persuade all, the literary innocent that is the child, the sophisticated adult reader. And that is what the great children's books have done and will continue to do, supported now by this new Booker Prize.
Penelope Lively, Thank you so much. And the inaugural Children's Booker Prize will be awarded in 2027. Now to the final 3 authors shortlisted for this year's Booker Prize, with performances from...
Well, I hope you're enjoying the coverage of the Booker Prize here on BBC News. We just heard from Sarah Collins there, who is an author, and she was on the judging panel last year for the Booker Prize, and she said what a tough job it was, and they really have a tough job this year. Susan Choi, Flashlight, that's one of the nominations. The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny by Kiran Desai. As we said, Kiran Desai won this prize in 2006, and it's actually taken her that amount of time since then to write her follow-up book. We've also got Flesh by David Saloy, The Land in Winter by Andrew Miller, The Rest of Our Lives by Ben Markovitz, and Audition by Katie Kitamura. Now, the red carpet was a very star-studded affair, as you would expect. And Sarah Jessica Parker, who we said was one of the judges, she made her way down the red carpet, and I asked her how it felt to be asked to be one of the judges.
But being asked to be a Booker judge is a very exceptional kind of conversation, and as a voracious, greedy reader and as a publisher, it's a dream come true. I've said it too many times for it to sound meaningful, but it is. It's just been the privilege of a lifetime, really, truly. I can't have imagined what this adventure has been, but it's just been just hugely rich and so wonderful, and I have had the best people to work alongside. I've learned so much. I've been exposed to so much great writing. It was very easy to say yes, and I didn't know what it meant, and I wouldn't have changed a thing.
Because the joy of being able to read and say, look, I'm doing this for work.
Yes.
I'm doing this. This is not just for me. I have to do this. It's such a privilege.
It is. I mean, I'm always reading, but the kind of reading, the volume, the kind of intention behind the reading, it just changes the experience so much. And when you're reading 8 hours, 10 hours a day, sometimes 2 books a day, and you're at liberty to do so, you are not ignoring something else. I mean, the biggest sacrifice really was my family, and the time I spent with them, going to the theater or a movie. But it's such a special thing to be invited in and have all of these great writers' works in our hands and have the responsibility to try to get it all right,
And were you thinking, obviously in your position, you can go, I can adapt this for the screen as well. Do you think about that when you're reading books?
No, I mean, occasionally a book's cinematic possibilities were apparent to all of us. But I wasn't really, I will think about that, but I felt so focused on our monthly deliberations and what I was reading and how that sat with books we'd read before, and what the book was doing and how I was responding to it. I wasn't being strategic about that. I was simply soaking up everything that author wanted us to feel and know and live.
That was the actress Sarah Jessica Parker, who's on the judging panel for this year's Booker Prize. And you can see behind me Stormzy. He's the rapper, musician. He's doing a reading on the screen of one of the nominated books, which is Flesh by David Saloy. Now, as I said, the red carpet was very star-studded. And I spoke to the actor Patterson Joseph, the British actor, and he was telling me about, when he reads these books, does he think about how they'd be adapted for the stage and screen, and would he star in them?
I honestly think that a lot of books, and maybe it's because of the sensibilities of the authors, are quite filmically written. They're quite cinematically written, and they're sort of episodic. I love those novels that do what a novel does, which is immerse myself into the mind of the person that I'm looking at, because that's a way for me to get myself out of my head and into the world of an Afghanistan girl of 9 years old, or a kid growing up in, Egypt in the 1940s. That, I think, is the novel's brilliance over anything like, performing on television or on stage. You're right inside the head of someone, and I think that's the great thing about novels.
That was Patterson Joseph, the actor, talking about his love of books. Now, the moment is here. Let's cross to the stage and find out who has won this year's Booker Prize.
Samantha Harvey. And also joining me on stage is this year's Chair of Judges, writer and 1993 Booker Prize winner, Roddy Doyle, who will be announcing the winner. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Hello. I've 2 minutes, but Sylvester Stallone only had 10 seconds to get up off the canvas in Rocky II, so I should be grand. I want to thank the Booker Prize Foundation, in particular Gabby Wood, Hannah Davies and Joey Sanders. I want to thank all 153 authors whose novels we read as we got closer and closer to this night. I want to thank my fellow judges, Ayobami, Chris, Kylie and Sarah Jessica, who made the experience of reading and rereading and reading yet again and discussing the books as we homed in on our winner such a personal joy. I'm at a stage in my life where joy can't find its way up to my face. So you'll have to take my word for it. I'm full of joy. We read the shortlisted books 3 times. I've read my own books once. I love a good book, but I liked looking at the Grand Canyon and was happy enough to walk away in the knowledge that I wouldn't be doing it again. In fact, that was probably the point. But we read the 6 books 3 times, and it was a hugely rewarding experience. Reading became closer to the experience of listening to music repeatedly, a great album, say. Words we hadn't noticed the first time, a phrase, a note, harmony, dissonance, silence, big and small things that we hadn't fully appreciated when we'd been charging through the books. The 6 books grew in our estimation with each reading. But as we discussed them, there was one book that we kept coming back to, one book in particular that made us all, and I watched this as it happened, sit up and smile. One book that we felt should win because of its utter singularity. The winner of the 2025 Booker Prize is Flesh.
So the winner of the 2025 Booker Prize for Fiction is Flesh by David Soloy, who's just about standing up now, I think a little bit shocked. A hug for his partner and his publishers and supporters, making his way to the podium now. A story of a Hungarian young man who moves to London after serving in Iraq. And a handshake from Roddy Doyle. Time to accept his trophy from Samantha Harvey, last year's winner. And a hug. David, can we make you say a few words for us? A few words, yes, if you don't mind. Absolutely. I know she's taken the trophy off you, but you can have it back very shortly.
Yeah, wow. I think the first person I would like to thank is Alison, the wonderful publicist at Penguin Random House, because she made it very clear to me that I should prepare a few words a few days ago, and now I'm wondering what she knew at that time. Or maybe she just says that to everybody. I'd also like to thank the judges, of course. I think I felt Flesh is quite a risky novel, a risky book. It felt risky to me writing it. And I remember Hannah Weston, my editor at Jonathan Cape in London, when we were talking about the title of the book maybe a year ago, wondering aloud whether she could imagine a novel called Flesh winning the Booker Prize. Which speaks to something risky about the title, which we felt at the time, I think, and something risky about the book itself in some ways, or unusual, certainly. Anyway, Hannah, you have your answer, I guess. And yeah, I think it's very important, this sense of risk, which I keep coming back to, and which was there throughout the process of writing the book for me, and throughout various discussions when we were editing the book and deciding on the title and stuff, there was a sense of risks being taken, and I think it's very important that we did take those risks. I mean, obviously, it's easy for me to say that now, but I felt that, I think, all along, because I think fiction can take risks. I think it's one of the things that it can do. It can take aesthetic risks, formal risks, perhaps even moral risks, which many other forms, narrative forms, can't quite do to the same extent. I think part of the reason for that is just that novels are so relatively cheap to produce. All you need to do is keep one writer supplied with coffee and a few other essentials for a year or two, and you've got a novel. I mean, it's almost free, which means these risks can be taken. And I think it's very important that the publisher, the novel-making community, if I can put it like that, embraces that sense of risk rather than shuns it. One person who definitely doesn't need to be told to embrace risk is my agent, Anna Weber, who I hope feels vindicated in her own risk aversion by a second consecutive Booker winner, which I hope that inspires in others the sort of strategic patience that Anna has always been willing she has been so patient with her writers and has taken risks in the sense of taking on writers who aren't perhaps immediately, obviously, going to be winners tomorrow or next week, but who knows, maybe 10 years from now. I must also thank Bill Clegg, who I'm very happy is here, my US agent, and who has also been a wonderful supporter of this book from the very beginning, and my US editors, Kathy Belden and Anne Graham, who unfortunately aren't able to be here, and of course, Hannah and the entire team at Penguin Random House in London. The sense I've had all along of them being fully behind the book has been wonderful to me. This wasn't necessarily a very easy book to write. I started on it just after abandoning another novel, and so there was a very great sense of pressure, as you might imagine, to make this book good, because I think while it might be okay to abandon one novel, to abandon two would be quite difficult for me to deal with psychologically. And I didn't always cope that well with the pressure. I didn't always cope that graciously and that wisely with it. And the only real witness to that was my wife, Oshoya, who is also here this evening. And I just want to thank her for sharing that experience with me.
That was David Saloy that you're hearing now, who's won the Booker Prize 2025 for his novel Flesh. Now, this mesmerised the judging panel, including Roddy Doyle, who said it praised it for its in the modern day, and it's a really interesting, accessible book as well. And earlier on, we got recommendations from people on the red carpet about what books they think we should be reading.
It is a book called John and Paul, and it's about the working and emotional relationship between John Lennon and Paul McCartney, and it's the most extraordinary book.
Well, I've just finished reading Our Evenings by Alan Hollinghurst, which I love his work, and I think it's brilliant, and I'd be very happy to recommend that.
Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book, part of a trilogy about Nigeria going through its independence struggle, and it was beautifully funny, really very funny, satirical, but also very insightful. So yeah, I love that.
One book I've read this year, so Helm by Sarah Hall is brilliant. I read lots of books, but I'm happy to stick with that one.
Called The Wall by Marlon Haufhauser.
Okay.
And Haushofer, Marlon Haushofer. Under extraordinary circumstances, kind of like a Robinson Crusoe situation, but it is life-changing. I haven't been able to see anything the same way since I read it.
Non-fiction, but it's Naomi Klein's Doppelganger.
Amazing.
Is a book that just kind of helps to explain an incredibly complex period. So I was very grateful to her for it.
I'm going to choose one of these books because I loved Flash. I think, yeah, right?
Oh my God, it's amazing.
I know, I think that it handles its themes delicately, but it's also this character who almost doesn't want to tell you the story. I felt like I was begging, like, please.
What happened in prison?
Yeah, let me have it. Tell me more.